Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in to the Creative Council. My name is Natasha, and today I'm going to be discussing portals and specifically with music. And the reason I wanted to come on and do this video is because the recent incident that happened with Travis Scott and his concert and the individuals who died at his concert. And the issue wasn't that there was people. I mean, that is terrible, but that's happened before. The real issue is the fact that he did not stop the concert even though people were running up on stage and telling him, hey, people are dying, people are passing out. And he literally was looking at the people dying and still performing. So people may say, well, why would he do that? One of the things you have to understand is, well, let's first of all just look at the fact that that was a ritual. And you can see by looking at the stage, even the song he was singing, Welcome to the Other Side or See You on the Other Side, and the figure that was on stage that had an open portal, a gate, a mouth with imps surrounding it, which are imps are little demons or whatnot, and he was singing Welcome to the Other Side. So when he was singing that song and he was looking at these people literally dying, he couldn't stop himself because at that point he had been taken over. And that may be strange or weird for people to conceptualize, but it's the truth. And people may say, well, that's just, rubbish. Well, no, it's not. Beyonce often talks about how she's taken over by Sasha Fierce. So if you're taken over and they're not being influenced and they're not filled with the spirit of God, they're filled with some spirit. And if it ain't God, best believe it's something. So the fact that he didn't stop and he saw people dying, one of the things you have to understand about the demonic world is when people give themselves, or if they're in a demonic contract and covenant with the enemy, the enemy is going to require them to a certain amount of sacrifices, a certain amount of blood in order for them to advance in their career. So in order for them to move forward, they're going to have to give the enemy what he requires, which is going to be blood sacrifices. So at the point of the concert when he was singing or whatever, and the people were dying, he was taken over. People, like I said, you may debate that. You can try to debate it, but make no mistake that he was literally he was blacked out at that point. That was literally a demon at that point taking over, and him just he just kept going, and the demon wasn't going to stop because he was being worshipped. At that point, he was being worshipped. He was receiving praise. He was being celebrated. He was being worshipped. And him seeing people dying was a turn on for him. And I hate to say it that way. I'm talking about the spirit operating behind him, that demon, that principality that was operating in him at that moment was being turned on by the wickedness and evil that was happening in that moment and looking and watching people die. So I know people may think that's weird or whatever, but it's the truth. The music industry is very, very heavily influenced by the demonic, unfortunately. And the reason why is because the enemy, Satan, he was the minister of music in heaven. And so he literally was made of instruments. His being was made of instruments. He was beautiful. He literally was a minister of music in heaven. So it's not far-fetched to really conceptualize the reason why he's so heavily impacted the music here on earth or whatnot, and culture specifically. One of the things you have to understand is the enemy knows the power of music. The music has the power to not only influence but to move people. And people, when you look at just in general, if you're someone who maybe had a hard day, or if you struggle with anxiety, or if you struggle with fear, or just different things, some of the things that people and even therapists tell you to do is listen to music, soothing music, calming music, instrumental music, rain sounds, nature. Just put those kind of tracks on. Why is that? Because music has a frequency. So anything with sound has a frequency, and our spirits respond to sound. Our spirits respond to frequency. Our soul responds to frequency. And so there is a frequency released in the music. And like I said, if the person is not plugged in, if they're, an agent of the enemy, then they're ministering to you. They literally are a minister and an agent of what they're plugged into and who they're plugged into. So if they're plugged into the enemy, best believe they're ministering something to you. And if it ain't the spirit of God, it's something else. And there's a transaction that takes place. So because there's an impartation. You are receiving something and you're releasing something. You may be releasing joy, or you may be releasing fear, or you may be releasing anxiety, but you are receiving from the music that peace or whatever it is behind the music, even through frequency. And that may sound weird, and people might think that's odd, but it's not. It's actually scientific that music and sound carries frequency, and our person, our spirit, our soul, and our bodies respond to frequency. So I'm not being weird. I'm not being new agey. I'm just that is actually a scientific fact that our bodies respond in that way. So, anyways, I said all that to say, when you listen to music, you are opening yourself up. So when you open yourself up, you are literally a portal. So it is important and vital for you to guard your heart with all diligence, because out of it flows the issue of life. And that is not something, to really play around with. One of the things I know, when I was in the world and I listened to secular music, it was a real snare for me. I had to get delivered from it, because I was literally, it was a part of me, if that makes sense. And it was just a part of my lifestyle. That type of music had a snare on my soul. And before I got saved, I would listen to music to, go there. People listen to music to get in the mood. You know what I mean? So music has a power behind it. Why would you listen to music to get into a certain mood? Because it'll take you there, because you're opening yourself up to it, right? So there's an impartation there. So you want to be very diligent about what you're listening to, and not only you, but what you're letting your kids listen to, because the objective of the enemy, make no mistake about it, is to lead and not only lead them, but ensnare their souls. So if your children are listening to this sexually perverted music, and they are dancing to it, and they are just opening themselves up, then don't be surprised if they struggle with different kind of sexual tendencies when they get older, or they start having sex early, or end up pregnant. And I'm not speaking that over your children. I'm not speaking that over you. I'm just saying you need to guard your, not only your heart, but if you're a parent, you're steward over your children. And so what they're listening to, what they're being influenced by, it's important for you to monitor that, because like I said, the enemy is trying to lead a whole generation, and he has, honestly, unfortunately, generations into hell by ensnaring their soul through the music. Because at some point, it's no longer the person ministering to the people. It's that spirit operating behind that person. Just like I said with the Travis Scott, at some point he was completely blacked out. So he was completely taken over, and that demon was ministering and being worshipped and receiving that in that moment. And that's like I said, hard for people to think about or conceptualize, but it's very true. Even in the Bible, King David, when Saul was being tormented by a wicked spirit, he called for David to play the harp. Why? Because the harp was soothing, and David was anointed to do that. But that the sound, the frequency of sound, soothed his soul. It drove away that evil spirit. So make no mistake about it, music has the power to influence the soul and the spirit. So be diligent about what you are allowing to access you and what you are accessing, because there's going to be a transaction, there's going to be an impartation to what you are listening to and what you are allowing into your soul. So that it acts as a portal. So just be mindful of what you allow in your portal, because it will spill over into your dream world. It will spill over into other areas of your life. So, yeah, I just wanted to come make a video to just encourage you to really be mindful about what you're listening to and what you allow your children to listen to, because the culture we're in, the enemy is very, unfortunately, in control of a lot of people and a lot of things and elements within our culture. So I would encourage you, if you are a musician and if you are a believer, that is just an encouragement that to rise up, because think about the power. If they have that much power to literally open up portals, how much more the portals that can be opened up to heaven, for heaven to invade earth, and for the kingdom to invade earth, and for the love of God to invade earth, and for healing to invade earth, and for the purposes and the plans of God to invade earth through his people, through worship, through his ministers. So if you are a person who is a musician or a minstrel, it is an encouragement for you to take your position and stand up in culture because you're needed. You're needed. This generation needs you. The generations to come needs you. So be encouraged. Anyways, guard your heart with all diligence. And I will see you in the next video. Until next time, be free, be healed, be whole. Bye.